Hello guys, Croft here. Today we'll establish the exact timeline of the events in Aliens of 1986, detailing every key moment. We'll also break down each event on LV-426 minute by minute, since the entire mission took less than 24 hours. While the events of Romulus unfold, Ellen Ripley drifts aimlessly in a small shuttle for almost 60 years. She's in cryosleep, still aboard the escape pod from the Nostromo. Then on May 16, 2179, the shuttle is eventually discovered by a deep space salvage crew who board it and bring Ripley back to civilization. On June 8, 2179, Ripley is then taken to Gateway Station orbiting Earth, where she is revived from stasis. On June 12th, right before being discharged from a hospital, she learns from Carter Burke Weyland Yutani executive that she's been asleep for 57 years. This revelation shocks her, and she's horrified to discover that her daughter Amanda has lived her entire life and passed away in Ripley's absence. However, the video game Alien Isolation that is considered canon follows Amanda Ripley as she searches for her mother. While I include Alien Isolation in other timelines, this discussion will solely focus on the cinematic timeline. On June 18, 2179, Ripley is debriefed by Weyland Yutani executives about the Nostromo incident, but they remain skeptical of her account of the xenomorph. They reveal that a colony was established on LV-426, the site of the alien eggs, 30 years after her supposed encounter. Despite Ripley's passionate warnings about the species' danger, the executives dismiss her as a traumatized survivor and they revoke her pilot license. In retrospect, we know that Weyland Yutani was well aware of the xenomorph, which makes their actions even more evil. Ripley's distress is compounded by a recurring nightmare in which she dreams that an alien embryo is growing inside her, echoing the horrifying fate of her former crew members. She wakes up in cold sweat, struggling to come to terms with her experiences and the loss of her daughter. Since we know that it takes 2 weeks to send the transmission to LV-426, on July 2nd, 2179, Hadley's Hope Colony receives a directive from Weyland Yutani to investigate a specific location, possibly prompted by Ripley's earlier warnings about the alien threat. On the same day, a family with 2 children then drives a rover to the coordinates and discovers a crashed derelict ship. The parents venture inside, hoping to salvage valuable items, but shortly after, the mother returns to the vehicle, revealing a facehugger attached to her husband's face. Consequently, on July 3rd, 2179, Weyland Yutani loses contact with the colony. So on July 6th, Carter Burke visits Ripley at her apartment. He informs her that contact has been lost with the colony on LV-426. He proposes that she accompany a team of colonial marines to investigate, offering her a chance to confront her fears and get her pilot license reinstated. Initially, Ripley refuses, but after a particularly intense nightmare and the realization that the alien threat could still be out there, she reluctantly agrees to join the mission on the condition that they will destroy the creatures, not study them. On July 9th, Ripley travels with Burke to the USS Sulaco, a massive military spacecraft carrying the Colonial Marines unit to the LV-426 exomoon. Then on July 27th, 2179, after arriving to the LV-426 system and awakening from cryosleep, Ripley meets the Marines, who are introduced as a confident and somewhat cocky group. The squad includes Lieutenant Gorman, the inexperienced officer in command, Corporal Dwayne Hicks, the calm and capable second-in-command, Private Hudson, a wisecracking soldier who provides a comic relief, Private Vasquez, a tough and fiercely loyal heavy weapons specialist, and Bishop, an android whose presence initially makes Ripley uncomfortable due to her past experience with evil androids. As the Marines prepare for the mission, Ripley is debriefed on their equipment and tactics, which include advanced weaponry and armored personal carriers. Despite her unease, she begins to bond with the team, particularly with Hicks. Ripley also shares her knowledge and experience with the xenomorph, warning the Marines about its extreme danger and relentless aggression. On July 27, 2179, at 8:30 a.m., the USS Sulaco arrives at LV-426 orbit and the Marines board the dropship piloted by Corporal Farrow to descend to the planet's surface. We know that the dropship departed at 8:30 a.m. according to Lieutenant Gorman.
I want DCS and tactical database assimilation by 0830.
So from now on, the timeline of events will be in hours and minutes, since all the events on LV-426 happened within 24 hours. The exomoon's atmosphere is stormy and hostile, reflecting the tension of the mission. At 9:30 AM, as the dropship lands at Hadley's Hope, the colony appears deserted with no signs of life. The Marines enter the colony cautiously, moving through dark, empty hallways that show signs of a violent struggle. The walls are scorched and there's evidence of gunfire, but there are no bodies. The Marines split up to search the colony, checking various areas including the medical bay, the living quarters, and the operation center. They discover that the power is still on, but communications have been cut. The place is eerily silent, amplifying the tension. The Marines discover signs of severe corrosion that burned through multiple levels of the colony, an unmistakable sign of a dead xenomorph. Shortly after, their motion trackers pick up a faint movement, but it turns out to be just a hamster, which momentarily eases their tension and creates a false sense of security. At 10:09 AM, the colony is deemed secure, but in the medical bay, the Marines find stasis tubes containing preserved facehuggers, the parasitic creatures that implant alien embryos into hosts. The discovery unsettles Ripley, reinforcing her belief that not only the colony has been overrun by xenomorphs, but the creatures were also studied rather than destroyed, much like what happened on the Nostromo. Burke shows a clear interest in facehuggers while Bishop proceeds to study them, almost hinting at the same malicious tendencies exhibited by Ash. As they continue to search, the Marines find a barricaded section of the colony and break through. Inside, they discover a disturbing sight. The colonists' personal belongings are piled up, and there are signs of a desperate last stand. It becomes clear that the colonists attempted to defend themselves, but they were ultimately overpowered. As Ripley and the Marines search the desolate colony for survivors, their motion trackers pick up a faint movement in the ventilation system. Following the signal, Ripley discovers a young girl, dirty and terrified, hiding in a narrow, dimly lit space. The girl, who introduces herself as Newt, is the sole survivor of the colony. She managed to survive the xenomorph outbreak by hiding in the ventilation shafts, and Ripley finds her old photo with her real name, Rebecca Jordan, indicating that it was her parents that were the first victims of the xenomorphs. Ripley promises to keep her safe, recognizing in Newt the same resilience and fear that she herself had experienced. At 1:23 PM, Bishop finds that everyone in the colony had a beacon and that all colonists appeared to be in one location at the atmosphere processing plant. The Marines then move towards the plant, while Ripley, Newt, Bishop, and Gorman stay inside the vehicle. As the Marines move deeper into the plant, the environment becomes increasingly unnatural. The walls and floors are covered in strange organic material, the same resinous substance that the aliens used to build their hives. The Marines detect movement on their motion trackers but can't pinpoint its source. At the same time, the temperature rises and the place feels like a literal hell. At 1:41 PM, Sergeant Apone gathers heavy ammunition into a bag to prevent stray bullets from damaging the terraforming plant's nuclear reactor. The Marines eventually reach a chamber where they find the missing colonists, but they are in a horrifying state. The colonists have been cocooned into walls, serving as incubators for alien embryos. Some are already dead, while others are in various stages of impregnation. The scene is gruesome and shocking, even for hardened Marines. At 1:57 PM, they find one of the colonists still alive, but in agony, and she begs the Marines to kill her. Seconds later, a chestburster erupts from her body, revealing the nightmarish scenario Ripley had warned about. The Marines open fire, killing the newborn alien, but their gunfire attracts the attention of the adult xenomorphs lurking nearby. Then suddenly, the xenomorphs attack in large numbers, descending from the walls and ceilings. The Marines, caught off guard, are quickly overwhelmed. And amidst the following chaos, the bag collected by Apone explodes, leading to casualties and further mayhem. The confusion is heightened by the tight quarters, the aliens' stealth, and the Marines' own panic. As a result, the aliens' speed and ferocity lead to heavy casualties. Lieutenant Gorman, unexperienced and overwhelmed, freezes under the pressure, making the situation even worse. Ripley, realizing that the situation is rapidly deteriorating, takes control. She drives the armored personal carrier into the facility, crashing through walls to reach the remaining Marines. However, as the vehicle crashes into the hive, Gorman trips, hitting his head and losing consciousness. At 2:03 p.m., Ripley orders the Marines to retreat and they barely escape with their lives, although most of the team has fallen victim to the xenomorphs. The survivors request the dropship to pick them up and bring them back to Sulaco. However, the pilot, Corporal Farrow, gets ambushed by a xenomorph that had infiltrated the dropship, causing it to crash and explode. So at 2:13 p.m. after the explosion, the only survivors include Ripley, Hicks, Burke, Newt, Hudson, Bishop, and Vasquez. And they all get stranded on LV-426 with no immediate means of escape. To make things worse, they realize that the atmosphere processing plant is damaged and will explode within a day, turning the entire area into a nuclear wasteland. At 2:45 p.m., the survivors regroup and try to formulate a plan to escape. In response to Hudson's increasing panic, Ripley points out that Newt actually survived the xenomorph outbreak, having managed to evade the xenomorphs by hiding in the ventilation system. Despite her young age, she developed a fierce survival instinct. Ripley, seeing Newt's vulnerable state, takes on a maternal role, comforting her and promising to keep her safe. This bond becomes central to Ripley's motivation as she resolves to protect Newt and get them both off the planet alive. So in the colony's main complex, the team begins to formulate a plan. With Lieutenant Gorman unconscious, Carter Burke attempts to take charge. However, as the mission is a military operation, the command falls to Corporal Hicks, the highest-ranking soldier in the group. Then Ripley suggests sealing off key access points to prevent the xenomorphs from reaching them. At around 5 p.m., the team works quickly to wheel the doors shut and set up automated sentry guns at strategic locations to cover potential entry points, buying them enough time to come up with a more concrete plan. At 7:25 p.m., Burke grows increasingly anxious and orders Bishop to smuggle the facehuggers back for Weyland Yutani's research division, even at the cost of risking everyone's lives. Ripley confronts him, revealing that she knows that it was Burke who ordered the young family to investigate the derelict spacecraft, leading to the outbreak in the colony and ignoring her warnings about the dangerous creature. So Ripley vows to expose his actions to the authorities once they return to Earth. Then, around 9 p.m., things get even worse. Bishop informs the survivors that in 4 hours the atmosphere processing plant will explode due to the damage it suffered in the gunfight with xenomorphs. He decides to bring the second dropship to LV-426 so that everyone can escape before the explosion. Then Bishop crawls through a large pipe to reach the uplink tower, where he can remotely pilot the second dropship from the Sulaco to LV-426. However, as this unfolds, the xenomorphs relentlessly attempt to breach the operation center. The sentry guns that Ripley and the Marines had set up in the corridors begin to run out of ammunition, signaling that the xenomorphs are closing in. The team anxiously monitors the remaining defenses, knowing that once the sentry guns are depleted, the xenomorphs will have a clear path to their location. Despite their fear, Ripley, Hicks, and the others prepare to make a final stand, determined to protect Newt and buy enough time for Bishop to succeed. Just when it seems the xenomorphs are about to overrun their position, the motion trackers go quiet, leaving the group in an eerie silence. The xenomorph retreat leaves them puzzled and on edge, suspecting that the aliens are regrouping for a more coordinated attack. At 11:30 p.m., Bishop successfully reaches the uplink tower and interfaces with the colony's systems. Using his advanced android abilities, he manages to remotely pilot the second dropship from the Sulaco down to LV-426. In the meantime, at 11:52 p.m., during a moment of calm, Ripley tries to help Newt fall asleep. However, they are suddenly attacked by a facehugger. Burke, likely responsible, had placed the creature in Ripley's quarters and sealed the room to ensure that she couldn't escape. Ripley, however, using her survival instincts, comes up with a quick solution. She sets off the fire alarm by burning a nearby detector, alerting the others. Although the facehugger nearly impregnates Ripley, Hicks and the Marines arrive just in time to save her and Newt. The group then confronts Burke, accusing him of attempting to have Ripley impregnated so he could smuggle alien embryos back to Earth. Just as Hicks is about to execute Burke, the xenomorphs find another way into the operations center. The creatures, displaying alarming intelligence, bypass the sealed doors by crawling through the ceiling ducts. So at 11:59 p.m., the Marines realize too late that the xenomorphs have surrounded them and the aliens launch a full-scale assault. Burke escapes, sealing the door behind him and trapping the others in a room swarming with xenomorphs. As he frantically navigates the darkened corridors, his fear escalates, but he's ultimately cornered and seemingly killed by a xenomorph. In the ensuing chaos, the operations center is overrun by xenomorphs. The team fights desperately, but the situation quickly deteriorates. Hudson, who has been slowly losing his mind, goes down fighting bravely, taking out several xenomorphs before being dragged away by the creatures. At 12:13 a.m., as the group escapes in the ducts, Gorman and Vasquez run out of ammo. They self-destruct with grenades, killing a few xenomorphs, leaving only Ripley, Hicks, and Newt. However, Newt is suddenly separated from the group and falls into a ventilation shaft. Ripley and Hicks manage to track her using the locator bracelet Ripley had given Newt earlier. They follow the signal to an area flooded with water where Newt clings to life in the narrow, dark confines of the colony's lower levels. But before Ripley can rescue her, a xenomorph emerges from the water and takes Newt, dragging her away into the depths of the hive. Devastated and enraged, Ripley refuses to abandon Newt. She convinces Hicks that they must rescue her, even as the colony's atmosphere processor continues its countdown to self-destruction. However, Hicks is then gravely injured by the xenomorph acid, leaving Ripley to face the final confrontation alone. At 12:41 a.m., Bishop arrives with the dropship just in time to extract Ripley and the injured Hicks. But Ripley insists on going back for Newt, armed with a flamethrower, a pulse rifle, explosives, and unyielding resolve. Ripley descends alone into the heart of the xenomorph hive. The hive is a nightmarish landscape with walls and ceilings covered in the resinous secretions of the xenomorphs. As Ripley makes her way deeper into the hive, she encounters the horrifying remains of the colonists, cocooned and lifeless, with their bodies used to incubate more alien offsprings. Ripley also comes across Burke, who is fused to the hive wall, likely already impregnated by a facehugger. Desperately, he begs her for help, but in response, she hands him a grenade as the means to end his own suffering. She pushes forward, finally locating Newt cocooned to a wall, moments away from becoming the host to a facehugger. Ripley fights off the attacking facehugger and frees Newt, holding her close as they prepare to escape. As Ripley and Newt turn around, they realize that they are in a massive chamber, the Queen's lair. In the center of the room, surrounded by dozens of eggs, sits the alien queen, an enormous and terrifying creature, far larger and more menacing than any xenomorph Ripley has faced before. The queen is connected to an egg sac, continuously laying eggs that will spawn new facehuggers. Ripley and the queen engage in a tense standoff, with Ripley slowly realizing the intelligence of the creature as the queen assesses her and telepathically controls regular xenomorphs. By threatening the queen with a flamethrower, it appears that Ripley is offering her a silent deal. If the queen allows her to leave, she won't burn the eggs. However, as one of the opomorphs was about to release a facehugger, violating their unspoken agreement, Ripley uses her flamethrower to incinerate the eggs one by one. This act of destruction enrages the queen, who lets out a piercing scream as she violently detaches herself from the egg sac, pursuing Ripley and Newt. With the Queen hot on their heels, Ripley and Newt race through the collapsing hive, climbing into an elevator that takes them back to the surface. At 12:58 a.m., just as they reach the landing pad where Bishop picks them up aboard the dropship, the elevator doors open, revealing the relentless alien Queen who has followed them all the way up. Ripley and Newt quickly board the dropship just in time, less than a minute before the explosion. Then Bishop takes off, heading back to the Sulaco, with the colony becoming a nuclear wasteland behind them. However, the danger is far from over. On July 28, 2179 at 2 a.m., upon reaching the Sulaco, Ripley, Newt, Hicks, and Bishop believe that they are finally safe. But as they prepare to put the nightmare behind them, the alien Queen suddenly emerges, tearing Bishop in half and trapping Ripley and Newt in a desperate final confrontation. Unknown to Ripley and the others, the alien Queen has stowed away aboard the dropship, hiding in the landing gear. With Bishop incapacitated and Hicks unconscious due to his injuries, Ripley must face the alien Queen alone. In a bold and iconic move, Ripley climbs into a cargo loader, a massive exoskeleton suit designed for heavy lifting. Using the loader's powerful arms, Ripley battles the alien Queen in a brutal and intense fight. The Queen's ferocity and size make her a nearly unstoppable opponent. However, Ripley, driven by her determination to protect Newt, fights with everything she has. The battle reaches its climax as Ripley maneuvers the Queen towards the open airlock. In a final act of desperation, she opens the airlock, causing the Queen to be sucked out into space. Ripley herself is nearly pulled out as well, but she manages to hold on long enough to eject the Queen into the void, finally ending the alien threat. So after an intense day on July 28, 2179 at 3:15 a.m., Ripley safely places Hicks, Newt, and whatever's left of Bishop into cryosleep, securing them for the Sulaco's journey back to Earth. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know your thoughts about what's your favorite moment or scene in this movie. Also, like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel for more content. My name is Croft and I'll see you in the next video.